Have you ever felt like you're trying to drink from a fire hose? You spend hours reading, watching tutorials, trying to absorb a new skill, only for it to feel like sand slipping through your fingers the very next day. It's a frustrating feeling, like you're running on a hamster wheel of effort with no real progress. Your brain isn't a storage closet you just cram things into. It's a living garden, and today I'll show you how to cultivate it so that knowledge doesn't just visit, it grows and it stays. In the next few minutes, we're going to install 3 fundamental upgrades to your learning process. These aren't complex hacks. They are simple shifts in perspective that will change the way you see knowledge forever. This isn't about memorization, it's about deep, lasting understanding. The architect's blueprint. Building the frame before the bricks. The first upgrade is to stop learning from page 1. I know that sounds counterintuitive. We're taught to start at the beginning and move linearly, but that's one of the most inefficient ways to learn. The psychological insight here is that our brains crave context. Without a mental map, every new piece of information is an isolated island. It's hard to remember, and it's impossible to connect to anything else. I remember when I first tried to learn coding. I bought a huge book and started with Chapter 1, What is a Variable? For days, I read about syntax, loops, and functions. It was abstract, boring, and I couldn't see the point. I felt like I was memorizing a dictionary for a language I'd never speak. I almost quit. Then a mentor gave me some advice. He said, forget the book for a day. Just watch a 10-minute video of someone building a simple app from start to finish. Don't try to understand the code, just watch the structure. It was a revelation. I saw the big picture. I saw how the variables and loops were just the bricks, but now I understood the shape of the house they were building. When I went back to Chapter 1, every concept clicked into place on this new mental blueprint. It wasn't an island anymore. It had a home. The lesson is this: true learning isn't about collecting information, it's about building understanding. So here is your first actionable step. Before you dive into any new subject, spend the first 30 minutes creating a blueprint. Skim the table of contents, read the chapter summaries, watch a short overview video. Ask yourself, what is the final outcome of this knowledge? What problem does it solve? Build the frame first. The bricks will be much easier to place. The child's explanation, the ultimate test of understanding. The second brain upgrade is something I call the child's explanation. We often fool ourselves into thinking we understand something just because we can recognize the terms. We read a passage, nod our heads, and say, "Yep, got it." But recognition is not the same as true knowledge. The insight here is that the ultimate proof of understanding is the ability to translate complexity into simplicity. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. There's a famous story about the physicist Richard Feynman. When he was working on his groundbreaking theories, he would often imagine explaining them to a first-year student or even a child. He wouldn't use jargon or complex equations, he'd use simple analogies. A bouncing ball, a wave in a pool. This process forced him to strip away all the non-essential layers and get to the absolute core of the idea. It exposed the gaps in his own understanding. If he got stuck, he knew exactly where he needed to go back and study more. This isn't just a trick for physicists. I used this when I was learning about financial investing. Concepts like quantitative easing and derivatives sounded impossibly complex. So I took out a piece of paper and wrote, how would I explain this to my 10-year-old niece? Suddenly, I was forced to use analogies. Quantitative easing is like the bank adding more water to the swimming pool to make it easier for everyone to float. It sounds silly, but that act of simplification cemented the concept in my mind more than hours of reading ever could. The lesson is, don't just be a consumer of information, become a translator. Your second actionable step is this. After you learn a new concept, grab a notebook or open a blank document. At the top, write down the concept. Then, pretend you are explaining it to a child. Use simple language. Use a story or an analogy. If you get stuck or have to use a complicated word, you've just found the edge of your understanding. That's your signal to go back and learn that part again. By the way, if this idea resonates with you, give this video a like so I know we're on the right track. It helps me understand what's truly helpful for you. The sleep sandwich. Consolidate to create. The final and perhaps most overlooked brain upgrade is the sleep sandwich. Our culture glorifies the hustle. We try to learn by cramming information into our brains for hours on end, fueled by caffeine. We see rest as a sign of weakness, not as part of the process. But here's the crucial insight that neuroscience confirms. Learning does not happen during the input. It happens during the consolidation. Your brain is not a computer that saves instantly. It needs downtime, especially sleep, to review the day's information, prune what's unnecessary, and strengthen the important connections. Imagine a sculptor working with clay. The input phase is slapping a big lump of wet clay onto the pedestal. It's messy and shapeless. The consolidation phase is when the sculptor steps back, lets the clay dry a little, and then comes back to carve the details. You can't carve wet mush, and you can't build strong neural pathways on an exhausted, overstimulated brain. A few years ago, I was trying to learn to play the guitar. I'd practice for 3 hours straight every night, getting more and more frustrated as my fingers fumbled. I'd end the session feeling worse than when I started. Then I tried something different. I practiced for just 45 minutes, focusing intensely on one new chord progression. Then I stopped. I put the guitar away and made sure to get a good night's sleep. The next morning, I picked up the guitar, and it was like magic. My fingers found the chords almost effortlessly. It felt like my brain had practiced for me while I slept. It hadn't, of course. It had been busy building and strengthening the neural pathways I had started to create. The lesson is, rest isn't the opposite of learning. It's an essential part of it. So here is your third actionable step. Frame your focused learning sessions with rest. I call it the sleep sandwich. Before you go to bed, spend 25 to 45 minutes in a focused learning session, no distractions. Then, put it all away and get a full night's sleep. This gives your brain the raw material and the time it needs to build. Treat sleep as a non-negotiable part of your learning strategy. What's one skill you're trying to learn right now? Share it in the comments below. Let's see what we're all building together. It's powerful to know you're not on this journey alone. So, it's not about forcing more information in. It's about changing the process. It's about becoming an architect who sees the blueprint first, a translator who can make the complex simple, and a gardener who knows that real growth happens in the quiet moments of rest. These aren't just techniques. They are a more respectful, more effective way to work with your brain, not against it. The real question isn't how much you can learn, it's how deeply you can understand. And that journey starts not with more effort, but with more wisdom.